Hignett corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises! It just had to be. Dax corner and it goes. Glance towards goal! And Rovers have taken the lead! And Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the Championship.
Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome back to another edition of On the Other Side with me, Ryan Hildred from Rovers Chat. And before you can say Southgate make a bloody sub, Rovers are back in action after 12 days out with our first league trip to Adams Park to take on Wickham Wanderers tomorrow afternoon, Good Friday. I'm delighted to be joined by 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 from Ringing the Blues podcast, back for his repeat appearance. How are you, Phil?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me back. Seems like a very long time since we last spoke, isn't it, really? So,
yeah, it was. It was September, wasn't it? So, yeah, I think this must be the longest gap we've had between opponents. Maybe there is a longer one, but maybe you are the longest one that we've had between games. So, yeah, Rovers fans, tell us.
I can't really remember what happened in the game at your place, to be honest. So, probably best not talk about that, really.
Well, we'll talk about it a little bit, I'm afraid. So, my apologies, Phil. Rovers fans joining us this evening, and any Wickham fans, if you've joined us, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button, turn on all notifications using that bell icon, and of course, please give this video and all of our other videos a massive like. Super Chat is available as it always is. But as we always do on this show, we will just remind you that we are sponsored by Blue Rose Capital. And we are sponsored by 𝐒𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿.com.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 𝐒𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.
Thank you to Blue Rose Capital and 𝐒𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿.com for their very kind sponsorship. And good to see the regular faces back in the comments. And Denver, you are correct. Rovers Chat are back, and it's good to be back as well. It was a boring 12 days or so, but I did take the time just to detox from all things Rovers and all of this stuff. So it is good to be back, though. And hello to Ollie, to Chris, to Scotty, to Matt, and to Ronan. He must be talking about you there, Phil. Ridiculously handsome looking once again. So that must be directed at you.
Well, that's very kind.
So let's crack on with the show then, Phil. Last time you joined us, we spoke about just the sheer joy at Wickham being in the Championship, and probably not surprising, with the greatest respect, that you do find yourself bottom of the league. Has it been what you wanted it to be this season? You know, how's it been?
Not really, to be honest, because the 5-0 at Ewood Park was probably one of maybe 2 or 3 sort of spankings that Wickham have had. I thought maybe we would have more of those days, but I think a lot of frustration has come from Wickham fans is that we've been in games. We've not been thrashed week on week. It's been narrow margins, and I think that's caused a bit of frustration because, yes, we're bottom, but there were sort of times where we thought, well, that could have been a win, that could have been a draw. And over the season, they've kind of built up a little bit. So, we've been a lot more competitive than I think a lot of us thought we would have been. And here we are with 8 games to go. Gaz is saying we need to win 7 of them. We've only won 6 all season, but we still believe, some of us. But yeah, it's been, an amazing season. If we finish bottom come May the 8th, it's the highest finish in the club's history. So we're on a bit of a no-lose ticket, really. So although we would like to get a few more points, if we're brutally honest.
Yeah, and I remember you saying that last time you joined, actually, it'd be your highest place finish regardless. So yeah, I do remember that. It did take you 9 games to get that first win, and then 2 came at once with those victories over Sheffield Wednesday and Birmingham at the end of October, beginning of November, and they're relegation candidates this season. So in isolation, those were really important victories for you. But then you didn't win again for another 12 games. And it was always going to be difficult for Wickham to come up and win games. And with just the 6 wins under your belt, you know, is there an air of disappointment there? You know, we have seen teams like Burton come up and stay up, for example.
Yeah, there is frustration, disappointment. You know, I mean, they've released the agents' fees this week across all the Football League, and Wickham are bottom in terms of what they've spent on agents and therefore transfers by an incredibly large margin. And I know it's not all about money, but, you know, with the team that is largely the team that got them up from League One, some of those guys were around in League Two as well. You know, it's a big step up. It took them, you know, that first 7 or 8 games was a massive learning curve. I mean, they didn't score for 5 games, and they didn't get a point until I think we played Watford at Adams Park on a Tuesday night. I think that was like game week 8. And, you know, it was that run that's really hurt Wickham, because if you add a few points into that, then they're right in the mix and in touch at the bottom of the table. So, yeah, frustration, disappointment, you know, but they're great things for Wickham fans to have, because everyone wrote Wickham off and said they'd have the lowest points total in Championship history. Well, they've eclipsed that already with 8 games to go. But yeah, like I said earlier on, there is that tinge of disappointment of like, whoa, if things had gone our way a little bit with injuries, I mean, every team can say that, of course, but bit of luck, bit of rubber to green. Had we won on the first day against Rotherham, would that have set us up with a bit of momentum? But yeah, a tinge of disappointment, but with the safety net of knowing that this money in this division this season has probably kept the club not in business, but it's given it financial stability now for not just this season, but possibly the next 2 or 3 as well.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that Rotherham game as well, because we were the game after that Rotherham game, and it was it a stoppage time winner as well, which just made it a bit more sickening. And you're thinking, yeah, Rotherham are going to be down there with you as they are. So yeah, that one did feel important even on the first day, didn't it? So remember that one. It
was huge. I mean, it was sounding ridiculous to talk about it being a 6-pointer on the opening day of the season, and you know, lo and behold, that's exactly what it has been. And Wickham dominated that game in terms of chances. They didn't take them, and then it was a sucker punch. They were out Wickham'd at the end by Rotherham, who, you know, we've had a really tough run as well in terms of COVID and everything else. But if you take 3 points off them and add it onto Wickham's total, the bottom of the table looks a lot more interesting.
Yeah. Just looking at that, actually, yeah, that would have put you on 30 points, just 8 points off Birmingham. It would put Rotherham on 32. So yeah, you'd be 2 behind Rotherham. So you're absolutely right, Phil. Definite 6-pointer in that regard. So when a team is bottom of the table, Phil, and adrift by 11 points, of course, they're likely to be bottom of most metrics. However, I was looking at Wickham and just the 25 goals scored this season. Has that surprised you at all?
Not really. They weren't massively prolific in front of goal in League One when they were top for most of the season last season out. You know, it's a solid team defensively, you know, before the Championship, obviously, before we conceded all the goals we have done this season. So yeah, it's built kind of, you know, from not conceding and nicking goals here and there from set pieces, etc. So I'm not massively surprised that we haven't been racking the goals up. I think purely because, you know, 𝐒𝐿𝐴DEBAYO was our main man coming into this season. He was carrying a very sort of heavy injury, probably for the last 2 or 3 years. He had an operation in the summer. They signed 𝐒𝐄𝐍𝐒𝐿𝐴DEBAYO. He got injured and he got COVID. So poor old Bayo had to play a lot of 90s at the start of the season when he wasn't fit at all. And it's the first time at the age of 38 he's played at this level. So it was always going to be tough. And where are the goals going to come from? That, and you get a lot, the chances you get in the Championship are a lot less, and you have to be clinical. Wickham haven't been. And then at the other end, if you make a mistake in League One, you may get away with the odd one or there, here or there, but in the Championship, you get punished. And that's really been the story of Wickham's season. So yeah, not surprised they haven't scored that many. And yeah, like I said, they've been leaky at the back as well.
Yeah, and before we go to talk a bit more about the squad and the recent form and the game itself, Phil, you know, we have to talk about the manager, Blackburn lad, Gareth Ainsworth. He's obviously going to go down in folklore with the Wickham fans, you know, for what he's achieved at the club. And if, when you do go down, what next for Ainsworth, do you think? League One is starting to become a very competitive division. So, is immediate promotion back a realistic ambition? What's the state of the squad going into a League One season if that's what happens?
I think Wickham are in a state of transition, really. They've had this general system that Gareth Ainsworth has put in place. So he has senior players that run the dressing room and look after the on the pitch activities during the 90 minutes. And they've been Darius Charles, Dominic Gape, who will be around for many years to come, hopefully, as a younger one of those players. Matt Bluefield, who's been at the club for 17 years. Adebayo Akinfenwa, Joe Jacobson. I think a large chunk of those are probably not going to be playing regular football for Wycombe Wanderers, from now onwards, really. I mean, Darius Charles wasn't put in the 25-man squad after January. Matt Bluefield hasn't really played now. I think the last 10 or 11 games has been on the bench, looking very much like a coach, in fact, and working with the Wycombe management team. Jacobson, I think, has got a couple of years left in him as well, which will be great for Wycombe. He's so important for them. So we're in transition, but Wycombe have now got this ridiculous situation for them, is that when they were in League One, they were the smallest budget in League One, and everyone was like, well, they'll get relegated to League Two, and they did incredibly well, obviously, to get into the Championship. But all of a sudden, Gareth Ainsworth's sort of favourite record to play after games was like, well, little Wycombe, we haven't got any money, we do things on a shoestring. And I don't think that's going to wash next season. There will be big teams and a lot of money in League One, but there'll be a lot of teams who will be poorer than Wycombe financially. And the expectation, having come back down from the Championship, will be higher from Wycombe fans, from football in general. And Wycombe have played the plucky underdog card now for many, many years. And it's going to be a real change of mindset now. If they are in League One, where do they go from there? Because the expectation of many fans will be that, yes, they should be competing. And I think, a lot of Wycombe fans will probably say, look, we want top six. And that's going to be a tough one next season, because there are going to be some big teams left down there. And then all of a sudden, it's a very different kind of pressure for the club, for the manager, for the players. And it'll be interesting to see how they react to that.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. And you're right, when you word it like that, that different expectation, that'll be interesting. And I'm just going to come in with Mark's question here, Mark Whittle. Do you think Ainsworth will still be at Wycombe next season?
This is a tough one to answer, because, as a Wycombe fan, I want him to stay. I want him to stay for as long as possible. And he's been at the club for 8.5 years and done an amazing job. He's eclipsed Martin O'Neill. Preston are looking for a manager at the moment, another club that he used to play for, where he made his Football League debut for. He was, at one point this week, he was the favourite for that. He's never ruled himself out of it. I spoke to him this morning, and he still didn't rule himself out of it. He just said what a great club it was, and what a great club Wycombe is. He's always done that. He's been linked to jobs in the past. He's a clever fox, is Gareth Ainsworth. But yeah, he doesn't really give you much in terms of concrete answers. But to be honest with you, I was staggered that Portsmouth didn't have a look at him in League One, because, a massive club, and their fans deserve Championship football at least. And I thought possibly they would look at someone like Gareth Ainsworth, but it wasn't even mentioned. A guy that's dragged the team with probably a third of their budget out of League One, what they're trying to do. He doesn't get linked to a lot of jobs, as many as other managers. I mean, Russell Martin, the 𝐒𝐄𝐑𝐒's manager, was linked to quite a lot of stuff. And he's in his first job at 𝐒𝐄𝐑𝐒's and doing a good job in a different style. But I think the way that Wycombe play, and maybe Gareth's haircut and the fact he wears a leather jacket on the touchline, maybe puts a few people off. And long may that continue. But, my heart says I want him to stay at Wycombe next season. I want him to be at Wycombe next season. But my head and my respect for the man, he's a lovely guy. He's a great manager. He's a great bloke. And personally, with my Wycombe hat taken off, I would absolutely love it for him to go to a bigger club with a bit of resource, and to really see where his potential can take him. And I think a lot of Wycombe fans will probably be agreeing with me when I say, when he does leave, we'll probably support that club a little bit on the quiet wherever he goes. And saying that, I think we've all been following Blackburn this season and hoping that Tony Mowbray does a great job, because I know if the phone call comes from Blackburn, I don't think he'll be able to turn that down ever at any point in his life.
Well, that one is a hot topic at the moment, our manager, Phil, and certainly more in favour of Mowbray not being our manager, unfortunately. I think it's probably a mixed reaction, I'd say, on Gareth Ainsworth, though, as our next manager. I don't get the sense that the Rovers fans really want that one, so might have to be the job after the next manager if it's going to happen. But, yeah, it would be great to see him one day, Ainsworth, I think. So we'll see.
Why is it that Blackburn fans want the ones who don't want him? Is it the style of football, or?
I don't know. Obviously, in Mowbray, we've got a very, very experienced manager there, and someone who's really come up, saved the club, etc., etc. And I just don't know if the Rovers fans are just looking for, like, not the next level, but just something that feels like it is a progression from Mowbray. And I mean that with the greatest respect to Ainsworth. I really do. It probably wouldn't feel like it's a progression, but we'll see. Rovers fans, let us know what you think in the comments. Certainly when we've done these live streams and the stuff I've seen on Twitter, I don't think many people have been in favour of Ainsworth. But do you know what? Blackburn fan, he's going to want the best for the club. So if it was going to be him, he'd get my full support in that. So, Phil, let's move on then to the key performers across the season. And your two top goal scorers this season with the 4 goals, the 2 players that you did pick out last time we spoke. I remember you talking about them, 𝐒𝐏𝐎𝐍𝐒𝐄 and 𝐂𝐄𝐄, who you've just mentioned. The headlines, of course, always follow Akinfenwa, who, as you say, has been injured for a large part of the season. So how have 𝐒𝐏𝐻𝐿 and 𝐂𝐄𝐄 done at this level in his absence?
Yeah, I mean, it's been frustrating for Wickham that 𝐒𝐄𝐍𝐒, he's got injured, then he got COVID. I mean, I think he made his league debut for Wickham at Blackburn, came on in the second half, didn't look fit at all. And then I don't think we saw him for quite a long time after that. He picked up a knock. And then I remember speaking to him in December after the Bournemouth game away on the South Coast, and he kind of casually dropped into his post-match interview that he'd had COVID, and it sort of took him out of the game for about 4 or 5 weeks as well. And like I said earlier on, he was kind of signed to take the pressure off Akinfenwa a little bit and give Wickham that focal point up top. And he didn't really kind of get into his stride until early in the new year. And he's really been a good player for Wickham Wanderers. He offers something very, very different to Adebayo Akinfenwa. He can run a channel. He's not that great in the air, to be honest, considering how big he is. But his touch is great, and he can roll off a man. He wins a lot of set pieces. He scored a couple of fabulous goals as well of his own making, like from outside the box against Brentford, and scored a belter against Borough as well. And so, yeah, I think Wickham would probably have to adjust how they play next season and build the team kind of around him, actually. And I think it would take a much more different approach than Akinfenwa. Akinfenwa is a unique player, a wonderful player, an underrated footballer. I think people just see the size and the character, but that guy's touch is phenomenal, and what he has got, what he's got that I've never seen, and that includes this level as well. It's his spatial awareness. Wickham play a lot of long balls to him, and when it's launched from the edge of the Wickham penalty area, as soon as it's left either the goalkeeper's foot or Joe Jacobson, he knows exactly where that ball's going to land, and he gets there first. He's got no pace. He doesn't need it because he's quicker up there. And once he's in the right place, no one's going to move him out of the way. And no one really talks about that level of sort of spatial intelligence and awareness that Akinfenwa's got. And I think Wickham will really miss him because he still plays a part off the bench at the moment. He hasn't scored yet this season, and he hasn't. This is the first season at this level. So, yeah, we talk about 𝐒𝐄𝐄 and we talk about 𝐒𝐏𝐻𝐿. Wickham fans are absolutely begging that Akinfenwa scores at least once before the end of the season. But yeah, 𝐒𝐏𝐻𝐿, I think he's a fabulous player. He's kind of been a bit unlucky in terms of Wickham have found a bit of a shape and a system since the turn of the year that plays 𝐒𝐿𝐍𝐒 up top on his own, and it's kind of meant he hasn't had a lot of starts. He's been coming off the bench sort of infrequently, but when he does get on, he looks incredibly hungry, and I think he's our most natural goal scorer, if I'm brutally honest. And yeah, I can sense his frustration when he comes on, and you can see him desperate to make an impression and score. But he's had a really good season from when he's been on the pitch. I'm a big fan of his.
Excellent. 𝐿𝐄𝐄𝐈𝐓𝐄 on my wavelength here. So this is 𝐒𝐿𝐄𝐄. Is he playing tomorrow?
Well, he'll be in the squad, absolutely. My hunch is that he'll start 𝐒𝐏𝐻𝐒𝐓 and we'll probably see 𝐵𝐿 at some point in the second half. So yeah, Scotty, I hope you're right, because I mean that'll be the biggest story in football tomorrow if he does score, because like I said, it's the first one at this level at the age of 38. Wonderful story if it happens.
We are run busters and run breakers and people, all of that. If ever you need a team, it is Blackburn Rovers. So if Adebayo Akinfenwa is watching, he's probably not. But if you are, we're the right team to be playing.
Well, we'll appreciate it either way. So thank you.
And just sticking with the Akinfenwa theme then, Phil, if he had been around more this season and there were fans in Adams Park, do you think it could have been a different story for Wickham this season?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the fans has been a big thing, not just at Adams Park. The away following for Wickham is, right away from the non-league days, is very special. We're not the biggest club, especially at this level, and they punch above their weight on and off the pitch. And it's incredibly cruel for the fans because, first time in the Championship, first time we've ever played clubs like Blackburn Rovers, for example, and the fans haven't been able to see it. And they would have made a massive difference at Adams Park. Tight little ground, bottom of an industrial estate. You could have had some ex-Premier League fancy dans trotting off the bus and thinking, where the hell am I? The fans are close in. It would have made a huge difference, I think. Maybe, a few extra points here or there, maybe. But yeah, it's one of those. I mean, like every club in the league is going to complain about the lack of fans, and we're all in the same boat with that one. But I mean, yeah, I think we would have had a few more points, but I think the overriding issue is that the Wickham fans have been denied this incredible season. Our chairman has said we shouldn't feel like tourists, but we've had some great away days. Nottingham Forest, these famous old grounds, no fans. It's been heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's been really gutting, and I'm personally gutted that I couldn't get to Adams Park. It would have been a first time for every single Rovers fan. So real shame that we've not got to go there, and you've not. Well, you did go to Ewood Park, but your fans didn't get to go. So yeah, real shame, and hopefully we can all be back next season. Absolutely. So if we just start to look towards the game then, Phil, as we say, possibly a matter of time for Wickham, it seems, and Rovers have certainly got nothing to play for. So I am hoping that we start to see Mowbray looking forward to next season, with our team selections and people who are going to be at the club next season. You did mention it earlier that Ainsworth said 8 wins out of 9. So what is the approach going to be from Ainsworth for these last 8 games? You get the win tomorrow. Are you thinking maybe?
Well, we always think maybe with Gaz because, he believes in fairy tales. So we all do as well. I don't know, but as much as I say that, I mean, we played Coventry last time out in a 0-0 game that if they were still playing today, it would still be 0-0. It was one of the worst games I've ever seen. 2 teams desperate not to lose. And I was like, well, Wickham really need to win this. And they played tight and they tried to nick a goal. We did the same against Birmingham. We did the same away at Sheffield Wednesday, where I thought they were must-win games, and it was easy for us to say now, and it's easy, as a fan or in the press box, whatever, and think, well, we might as well lose this 2-0 rather than draw 0-0. A draw does us no good. I think publicly, when it's mathematically possible, the club, of course, will say, yeah, we're looking to stay up. I think they're playing for next season here. They're trying things out. They're blooding a couple of youngsters. And yeah, I think, probably also with an eye on momentum as well, just thinking don't want to get too many tankings before now and the end of the season, going into what will be a tough league next season in League One. So yeah, I think, they want to get more points on the board. They want to score more goals. I mean, that's an obvious one, but I mean, I think Mowbray's in the same boat. I mean, he was talking about what a young side he's got and how they're learning the trade, and 1 win in the last 12 for you guys is not a great look for him. So, if he keeps the job over the summer, he's going to need to start well next season. So that's what he's going to be doing. I think, Wickham at home as well. Yeah, I think Gaz would love to put one over Rovers as well. I know he's a massive fan, but they released him on his 18th birthday. That's got to hurt, surely. So he'd love to beat them.
I was just looking at your fixtures. I mean, if you were to beat Rovers, it's then Rotherham and then Luton, which obviously a bit of a derby for you as well. No fans, of course, but get good results in those next three. And who knows? I just think the fact that Rotherham comes after Rovers, then why not target these two games and go for it? So, yeah, I think Rovers are going to have to be on their guard tomorrow, that's for sure, particularly with us not having much to play for.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the way that Wickham play is that they tend to be tight and they try and nick something, which, you know, when we're in sort of a desperate situation, which we are actually in, it was just it kind of thinks, well, do you know what? Let's just throw the kitchen sink at this and see what happens. We might get beat 3-4, 5-0, but like, you know, are we really any worse off? I don't know. Easy to say, isn't it, as a non-manager, but we'll see.
Well, the stats do not lie against Blackburn Rovers. So if you take the lead, you're probably going to win that game. So, you know, why not throw the kitchen sink at it? So let's see.
Well, that's encouraging to hear. So, you know, let's see if Wickham can edge themselves ahead. And they've not done it often this season, but we'll see.
See what happens. Well, Rovers fans, as we always do, we've asked our opposition fan this time, Phil, to give us his predicted 11, which I'm now scrolling along the bottom. No graphics department available tonight, I'm afraid. So you get the scrolling along the bottom. So you've mentioned some of the players already in that predicted 11 that you've got there, Phil. But just talk us through the side and where Wickham might hurt Rovers tomorrow.
Well, there's a youngster called Anis Mehmeti, 19-year-old Albanian, who was playing for last season, was playing for Woodford Town, which I think is step 9. Wow. And then I think that level of football got sort of shut down and they never came back. It'd been released from Norwich under-23s at the start of last season. And Wickham picked him up with about 4 other youngsters who are sort of signed as a sort of development squad because we don't have any reserves or youth team. And he very quickly got himself into the first team squad. He's made over 20 appearances, scored a couple of goals. He plays in the central, that midfield 3 behind the lone striker. He sort of plays in that free role behind the striker in the middle. And he's a wonderful footballer. And it's been one of the joys of this season for Wickham fans is to watch him play. A couple of Wickham fans have started calling him Messi, which is obviously, not too much pressure on the youngster, but he seems to thrive on the attention as well. But yeah, he's a brilliant little player, really technically gifted. And it's been brilliant to watch him develop. And, if Wickham are to get anything out of these last 8 games, he's going to have to be, playing a big part in that as well. But yeah, he's one to watch tomorrow. I think he'll start. I think Fred Onyedinma is a player that has come in with championship experience in this squad, playing for Millwall previously, as well as many spells at Wickham on loan. But he's kind of flat to deceive a little bit. I think it's been tough to be a forward player for Wickham this season because chances have been few and far between, and we've had to do a lot of defending and chasing the ball and not having much possession. But he's a player that I think had experience that a lot of Wickham fans looked to and thought, well, if we're going to do well this season, it's people like Fred are going to have to step up. On his day, great player. We haven't seen enough of him, I don't think, this season. So it'll be great for him to kind of get the bit between his teeth between now and the end of the season and get some momentum. 𝐒𝐏𝐻𝐍𝐒, we've spoken about. I think he's unplayable at times. His centre-backs will have to work hard to keep him quiet. And then Ryan Safazoli, the centre-back, again, signed in the summer, championship experience with Hull, although limited appearances. But we didn't see him until after Christmas properly. I think he came on as a sub in the 5-0 at 𝐒𝐏𝐻𝐍𝐒 Park, and then he got injured shortly after against Swansea, I think, a couple of weeks later. But since he's come back, he's a left footer. He's really tall. He's a danger at both ends, really, and he's great defensively, but makes us a lot more likely to score from a set piece. So yeah, Tafazoli, Mehmeti, the 2 I really like. Josh Knight, who we've got on loan from Leicester, has done really well. Initially as a centre-back, and they're playing him in midfield a bit more now. But he's really stepped up this season. First time in the Championship for him. He's out of contract at Leicester in the summer, so I think he's playing for a kind of come and get me for maybe for some of the other Championship clubs. Or I know Wickham would love to sign him, but it could be a tough one for his agent if we're in League One. But we'll see. But yeah, they're the 3. David Stockdale's come in, really hugely experienced goalkeeper. Not had a lot of football really in the last 3 or 4 years. Ryan Alsop was doing really well for Wickham in goal. Picked up an injury, and Stockdale's come in and played the last 10 or 11, and played really well and kept the gloves. And so yeah, he's been good too.
And just coming on to Ollie's question here, any Wickham players that Phil thinks will be a good sign-in for Rovers, whether that be a starter, bench, or hot prospect? And a question I was going to ask you, just anyone you think will get tapped up by a Championship or indeed Premier League club after your time in the Championship?
Well, Anis Mehmeti is a sort of player that, I've said it on the commentary a lot of times this season. He's the sort of player that you would happily spend money to go to a football match to watch. And those players are like gold dust. And I'd imagine he's turned a few heads this season in the Championship, maybe some of the bigger budgets in League One. Wickham picked him up, as I said, as a free agent coming out of step 9. All of the development players they sign them on a 1-year deal with an option in the club's favour. So I'm guessing that if he was to leave, they'd get some money for him. Personally, I think he should stay, even if Wickham are in League One, and really make a name for himself. But I could see him playing in the Premier League. I mean, we've had the likes of 𝐒𝐿𝐻𝐒𝐎𝐍𝐒 on loan at Wickham, and when we were in League Two, and as soon as he came on, it was like, well, this kid's amazing. And now he's lighting up the Premier League, and Wickham have got a habit of unearthing these kids. So I think Mehmeti's in that bracket. So I think when he does leave Wickham, I think it'll be for a bigger Championship club. Possibly a Premier League one if he stays with Wickham and really lights it up. But yeah, Blackburn Rovers could probably have a look at him. I think 𝐒𝐏𝐻𝐒𝐍𝐒's turned a few heads as well. It's the first time he's really played in the Championship, and he's had some really good games for Wickham, and he offers something completely different, and he's a big lad, but he can play and he can run a channel and give a few options. And I know a few of our opponents this season have sort of, their fans afterwards have spoken about how well he played and how they would like to see him in their own colours and stuff. So, yeah, I think 𝐒𝐏𝐻𝐒𝐍𝒻 and Mehmeti would be the ones. I mean, I said Josh Knight is out of contract at Leicester. Centre-back, cultured ball-playing centre-back, can play in midfield. I don't know if Blackburn are in the market for any of those, but I mean, he's another young lad as well who's proved himself at this level. So he'd be worth a look as well.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what happens with our contracts in the team and whatever, we might be looking for some players. We might be in a bit of transition ourselves. So, yeah, thank you for that, Phil. Interesting for some of them because, yeah, Wickham don't get the headlines, do they? So, Phil, I'm really sorry that we do have to look back at the game at Ainsworth Park.
It's okay. I'm over it, just.
Excuse me, that game for me, before that game got started, just had banana skin all over it because A, it's Rovers, and B, Ainsworth coming to Ainsworth Park. Those two things just had banana skin all over it. But it was actually really nice from a Rovers perspective and a nice surprise to see us do that to a promoted side. And we were in some great early season form, actually. What did you make of Rovers that day? And are you surprised with how we've really tailed off? Or did we just catch you on a particularly bad day that day?
I mean, you caught Wickham at a really good time because, we got a total hiding. And, Gareth Ainsworth has called it a massive lesson in the Championship. And it was our first away game, a fixture that Gareth Ainsworth was looking for as soon as the fixtures were released. His entire family were there. They live in Blackburn, his parents and brother and everyone else. And yeah, massive game. And Wickham were given a proper beating. And they didn't look anywhere near on it. It took them, as I said earlier, 6-7 games to really start looking competitive in the Championship. And a large reason why they became competitive is what they learned at Ainsworth Park. And to be honest with you, I thought you guys looked fantastic. I thought Tyrese Dolan he kind of announced himself in that game, didn't he? To not just Rovers fans, but just to football in general. Because I think he'd been picked up from, was it Preston?
Yeah, Preston on a free as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people were a bit like, why have we signed him? And then, he was fantastic. Won a penalty, scored a goal, and was a real thorn in Wickham's side. And I thought, oh, he's a hot prospect. And obviously Armstrong has been fantastic this season, 20 goals. I hope he's not fit tomorrow, by the way. And yeah, I mean, I thought you guys would be knocking on the door of the playoffs. And yeah, it's just the wheels have come off massively, haven't they? You haven't really ever strung a decent. I think you've won three on the bounce. I think mid-season, and then this last 12 games has been desperate stuff, hasn't it? Really, and yeah, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised actually, because yes, it's a young squad. I think you've got some fabulous players. I mean, Ben Brereton really caught the eye in that 5-0, and I've been keeping tracks of him, and I think he's a really good footballer as well. And you've got some good young loanees on loan from the Premier League. So yeah, I thought, yes, youth, but with an experienced manager, I thought maybe you'd be doing a lot better than you are now, to be brutally honest.
Yeah, it's been a real shame. The season really unravelled in February, really. We had a horrible run of 5 losses in a row. And as you say, 1 win in 12, and that's not playoff form by any stretch. And yeah, you're absolutely right. We had the 3 wins in a row, end of November going into December, and that was part of a good run we were on at that point. It was 7 games unbeaten at that point. So yeah, really streaky side, Blackburn Rovers this season, and actually in some previous seasons as well. So hopefully we can get closer somehow, but certainly a lot don't think it's with this manager. And before moving on to our predictions, Phil, which will be the final question, I'm just going to ask you just to put your flag to the mast a little bit. Can you do it? Can you do the Great Escape? And if not, what do you want to see from these final few games?
Well, it's a heart and head moment again, isn't it? My heart says, of course we can do it. My head very fervently says, absolutely not. 6 wins all season. We're going to need at least 6, probably 7 wins in the remaining 8 games. So yeah, it would be slightly foolhardy to put any money on it, and I certainly won't be. So I think from a resigned kind of going to get relegated, I'd like to see us have a proper go at teams and sort of leave a bit of an impression and enjoy it. This is, like I said earlier, this is the highest finish in the club's history. Fantastic. Let's go out fighting, swinging, smiling, and get some momentum into next season. Develop these youngsters a bit more, and really try and hit the ground running into League One next season. And yeah, prove a few people wrong still. I mean, like I said, there was people at the start of the season saying that Wickham wouldn't win a game. And they wouldn't be able to get near that 23-point mark that Rotherham set in 2015. They've eclipsed that. We've avoided that banana skin because that would have been a horrible record to have. So, yeah, I mean, it'd be great just to kind of bloody a few noses and have a bit of fun between now and May. And you never know, maybe ruin a few team seasons by sort of Middlesbrough. So we got Middlesbrough last day of the season. And I thought if they need a win to get in the playoffs, and we turn up there and go full Keegan and score 4 goals or something ridiculous. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Well, what have you got here? So you've actually got quite a tough final game. Actually, Swansea, Bristol City, Wickham, Cardiff, Bournemouth, and Middlesbrough. I mean, those 5 games are tough. So
they're all tough. When you're bottom with 6 wins all season, they're all tough. Trust me, they're all tough.
Well, I think there's definitely scope there to ruin someone's season, because all 5 of them have got something to play for. So you'll ruin someone's season. That's certainly my prediction.
Well, let's hope so.
So Rovers fans, we've reached the part of the show where we want your score prediction. So whilst I ask Phil his, please do load the comments with your score prediction for the game tomorrow. Let us know how you think it's going to go. So yeah, Phil, score prediction for tomorrow. How do you think the game's going to go?
Well, I've been asked this a lot by a lot of podcasts on in the Championship, and I'd often go 2-2 out of a mark of respect for the size of the clubs or whatever. But I'm sorry, but your form is so bad that I'm going to have to back Wickham on this one, and I'm going to go 2-1 Wickham Wanderers.
2-1 Wickham. I like it, Phil, and I don't blame you. We're in dreadful form, so I don't blame you for doing that at all.
If we do win, do not sack Tony Mowbray. He's definitely the guy for you. He's got a young squad. He deserves at least another 3 or 4 seasons. Trust me.
You've certainly upset some Rovers fans with that one, I can assure you.
I mean, that's purely out of self-preservation, you understand.
Absolutely. I can see this being a really low-scoring game. I think Ainsworth knows that coming at Rovers is not the thing to do, because we can hurt you on the counter-attack. If Armstrong doesn't make it tomorrow, then Dolan will be playing. So I think Ainsworth got his fingers burnt a little bit at Ewood Park, so he's not going to allow that to happen again. And as I say, we are a side that if we go 1-0 down, we don't usually come back. So I think Ainsworth will be targeting a 1-0 victory for Wickham. But I'm going to go for a 1-0 victory for Rovers. I think we'll squeak it. I think we'll ease it. I think it'll just be a low-scoring game, and I think you're going to sit back a little bit, maybe try and soak the pressure, because that is a bit of an Achilles heel for us as well, and I think Ainsworth knows that's the way to try and beat us. So, yeah, I can just see a low-scoring affair. 1-0 is that what I'm saying. Sorry, Rovers fans. That's very boring of me, but 1-0 Rovers is what I'm saying. So let's have a look at what we've got in the predictions. Ollie was first. He's gone 3-1. Ignore my profile picture. Sorry, Desmond. 3-1 Rovers. JRC.
Should be a 2-2 draw with that one, shouldn't it? Come on.
We have got a little Desmond GIF that we do use on the live watch-alongs that we do, but I won't do it as a mark of respect. I won't do it now. It'll come out tomorrow if it's 2-2. Michael's gone 3-0 Rovers and says sorry to you, Phil.
Don't worry about it. It's all right. Don't worry.
Mark's gone 2-1 Rovers. Alex, this is very much a banana skin fixture for Rovers. Hopefully not 2-0 win. 𝐿𝐄𝐄𝐈𝐓 going 1-1. Gilles, 2-0 Rovers, but I'm not confident. And yes, you were abstaining from doing predictions. So glad to have you back with us, Gilles, doing the predictions. Rovers fans, you do not have very long to get your predictions in before I close off this show. So get it in. You haven't got much time. But yeah, Phil, I just want to say thank you to you for joining us on this fine Thursday evening. Well, it's not so fine now. It certainly was the last 2 days. Tonight, not so. But yeah, thank you for giving up your time and sharing your thoughts about Wickham.
No, it's a real pleasure, and one of the real pleasures of this season has been, for Wickham to play the likes of Blackburn for the first time, and I have to say my day out at Ewood Park, despite the result, was fantastic. I remember walking up the steps, and I wish I could remember her name. As a lady there that looks after the press, who showed me the Premier League trophy replica, the trophy you've got for winning the FA Cup 3 times and consecutively. I mean, all these things are what for me as a football geek was wonderful, and it was a Tommy tick-off as well. I've never been to Ewood Park, so it was great for me. And I just hope, maybe not next season. That's looking unlikely, but in a couple of seasons, I hope I can be back on here having a chat about Wickham in the Championship again.
Definitely. We'd love to have you back because I want to get to Adams Park. So definitely get yourself promoted next season. Yeah,
I'm so sorry for you Rovers fans, because we are the most picturesque ground in English football. From the away end anyway, because you look over the beautiful Chiltern Hills. If you're in the home end, you just see the industrial estate. But the away end, we spoil you with this wonderful vista of rolling hills and red kites flying and partridges coming down from the woods. It's a beautiful countryside scene. So if it was a boring game, you would have had a nice day anyway. And we look after away fans at Wickham. So I'm very sorry that you can't be there. Fingers crossed in a couple of years, we'll see you soon.
Yeah, hopefully so. I'm rooting for you to get back up for that very reason. I want to be there in the season after next. So come on, Wickham. Just not tomorrow. So we'll just finish with a couple of things. Stephen squeezed in a score prediction, 3-1 Rovers. Thank you, Stephen. And just a reminder to Rovers fans, we are live with our watch-along tomorrow. Good to be back. It'll be 2:30. I don't think we've got Luke Kimberley tomorrow, which is a shame. It'll be me, Joe, plus another who I'm going to go and organise after this show. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button. Turn on all notifications with that bell icon. And please give this video a big like and all of our videos a massive like as well. So, Phil, I will say bye to you. And I will leave everyone with our sponsor messages from Blue Rose Capital and from 6yardsout.com. See you later, everyone.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.